Yeah, I feel like that's what we're trying to do when you play multiple people. I think it gives other people opportunities to do that, right? And we were really proud of the way KBJ had come on and progressed over the last 2 weeks in practice. He's had an interesting career because he's been beat up and hurt so much, and we counted on him. He had to take significant snaps Saturday, so it was good to see a guy like that pop up. But again, I think back to the point that I've made several times, when you give opportunities to a lot of different guys by being able to play a lot of different guys on defense, you're hoping that that's the case, right? That people pop up like that. But very proud of him. He was very productive for us. He did what we asked him to do within the structure of the defense. So we hope some more guys come along and pop up like that as well.
We talked last week about your rushing lanes last week, and it looked like your defense did a great job of containing the edge, maintaining the pocket, maintaining the position so that Trader couldn't get out and do what he wanted to do. How replicable is that for the rest of the year for them to be able to see, hey, we did what we've talked about. You saw the results. How are you able to help them see that moving forward this season?
Yeah, we made a big deal out of that yesterday in our team meeting, simply because they executed the plan really into the minute details, and that's huge when you have a guy like that. He was averaging 8.3 yards per scramble, and we held him to -7 scramble yards, and that was the large part of that due because everybody did their job. Sometimes we had a quarterback spy guy, and there were times when we didn't, and you had to balance the pass rush lanes up to make sure that everybody was in the right spot. So they did a really good job of the combination of the two, and it is a good look going forward that when we have to balance the rush lanes against guys that are very dangerous as scramble guys, that we have a good plan to do that. So we weren't perfect. There were some things that showed up that we can correct, obviously, but at the end of the day, we knew that for us to win the game, he could not be a scrambling quarterback like he did against Purdue. So I think our guys did a really good job of that.
A year ago, especially the first half of the season, you coming here on Mondays, and it was pretty clear there was some frustration of how things were going. When you look at Saturday and see the way they executed the plan, what's it like sitting up there and watching them do everything that you said that they had to do in the plan, and executing, like you said, near perfection?
It feels good. I told the players, and we always tell the players, and Mac always tells the players, the joy of a coach is to watch them on Saturday night when the fruits of their labor show up, at the end of a 60-minute game. And so we're improving. We're making some progress in that regard as far as execution of the defense. That was a really good offense we played. And, I think going into the game, I think they averaged 38 points a game, somewhere in that ballpark, and a lot of yards. And so we were able to execute at a high level. Again, we weren't perfect, and there's a lot of things that we talked about yesterday and we'll talk about tomorrow, because the goal is to strive for perfection, even though we know we won't get it. We have to be driven to that. And so they understand the importance of doing their job, I think, much better than at any point in time last year. And they're executing at a much better level. So we still have a lot of room for improvement, but I'm really, really proud of the players because they're really, really they're making a very conscientious effort to be great at what their one job is, their 1/11th of the process. So we're making progress, and we need to continue to improve.
As a follow-up to that, what is the primary difference between the game plan not so much being executed a year ago to it being executed the way it was?
Like I said before, I think it's just a combination of things. I mean, I think that, you're seeing guys that are more comfortable with their job descriptions and how they go about doing their job. Certainly that comes with reps and time, right, and experience. I think that they have a much clearer picture of what those responsibilities are. Again, that's through, time and experience. And we're playing a lot of guys out there that have played a lot of football, and that matters. I think experience matters. And if you look at pretty much every level of the defense, with the exception of, a few positions, you've got guys that have played a lot of football. So it is time for them to step up and be better at what they do. And collectively, that makes you better as a team. But, a better overall understanding. and I think our coaches are doing a great job, making sure that we always call it the power of proximity, right? The power of proximity is when you were able to put players in a position to make plays, then they have to make the play. So, last year there's a lot of times where we weren't really in the right positions to even make the play. And I think now we're in better proximity from the back to the front to be better at executing the defense. So I think that matters.
How much is quality depth, experience depth, forced guys to do their job a lot better than they might have last year?
Yeah, it always matters, right? Competition always brings out the best in everybody. And, yes, we love that part of it. We love the fact that, there's competition, pretty much at every position. There's some clear-cut guys that are going to be the guy, and we know that. But it's twofold, and I said it last week. It's one, that we are creating competition at different positions, and we have enough depth there to make the guy in front of you be extremely conscientious about how he plays and how he performs. And we talk about it all the time. Is your presence felt in the game? Like, as a player, if they're not feeling your presence in the game, then you're really not being productive. So, we feel like now we're starting to build enough depth where if your presence in the game is not being felt, maybe there's somebody behind you whose presence will be felt. And then just the overall value in playing more guys, simply because it's just great for the locker room, right? Guys are bought in, and it helps in practice and things of that nature. And we need to continue to play more guys when they're ready. But when they won't be out there if we don't trust them. And if we do trust them, they will be. And then when they go out there, they got to produce in a game like they do in practice. So all of those things matter, and it's helping us.
Gene, does that prove that playing like a KBJ, maybe jumping him ahead of Ritzy, does that prove that's not coach speak? That if you do perform in practice, we are going to put you out there? I mean, that's, like some of that's coach speak, obviously, right? I mean,
yeah, we try not to make it coach speak. We really don't. I always tell them, and they get tired of hearing it, I put it up on the thing. It's Aristotle 2,400 years ago said, you are what you repeatedly do, right? Therefore, excellence either becomes a single act or a habit if you're creating good habits. Well, our good habits have to be created in practice, and that does two things. It allows you in a game to be able to produce at a high level if you're practicing at a high level. Conversely, if you go out there and practice and you're not producing at a high level, you don't produce on a high level in the game. So coaches can say that, but we truly are saying, without question, if we don't see it in practice and we don't trust you to do it in practice, you're not going to be out there on Saturday. So you have to be able to do that in practice to show us that we can trust you. And again, those habits are built up, and those habits become who you are. It doesn't just, there's very few players in my lot of years of doing this that can just go out there and practice and do virtually nothing and then show up on game day and be great. It doesn't happen. So we really press that issue to our players before every practice and before every week starts. So you got to produce in practice, and we truly believe if we see that in practice, then you'll produce in the game.
Right now, Miami is leading the ACC in offensive yards. I think they're at 5-5 right now. Obviously, you've seen that offense before, but what makes them so effective in moving the ball down?
Well, remember, this is a different offensive scheme, and I think it really fits their personnel really well. And it all starts with the quarterback. And so, the quarterback is extremely comfortable in this offense. You can tell. He gets the ball out fast. He's got great receivers that you can distribute the ball to with a lot of speed, some with a lot of size, some with a lot of speed, but there's a good mixture in there. And then he's got a stable of running backs that are really good. So it's not that they're one-dimensional in any way, shape, or form. They run it for over 200, and they throw it for almost 300. So they're just really good at what they do. But I think it's the execution of the offense. They're averaging close to 40 points a game, and that's a lot of offense. That's a lot of production. So I think the changes that they made in the offensive structure really suit the quarterback. But he gets the ball out fast. He's got great targets to get the ball out. The offensive line's done a great job. They've only given up 5 sacks in 5 games. And that's hard to do this day and age, but it's a combination of them playing really well, even though there's some new guys up there, and him getting the ball out fast because he feels comfortable in the offense. So I think that's why they're stressing defenses. And so it's they've got, as you know, they're going to always have great athletes and great players, and they've got those, but they're also executing at a high level.
And just real quick to go off of that, I mean, from whatever you saw from the Georgia Tech game, what made Georgia Tech's defense so effective in limiting Miami? I mean, they only had 20 points, so what made that Georgia Tech defense so effective in limiting them?
As any time that you look at an offense that typically is scoring a lot of points and has a lot of yards, and then all of a sudden you go back and you look and they're not scoring at as many points as they had previously, it usually points back to turnovers. And that was simply it. You know, there was 3 interceptions, and going into the game, Tyler had only thrown 1. If I think I'm right on that. But you know, three interceptions in a game, 3 turnovers in a game changes games, right? So that's 3 possessions where, you know, one of them was in the high red zone where they were going in too. So that was very uncharacteristic of them, but it was a rainy night, it was a wet night, you know what I mean? So you know, it was a close game. Georgia Tech did some good things, but they moved the ball. Miami moved the ball. But again, when you have those situations, you can usually look to turnovers, and that's usually the difference in the game, and that's really what it was in the end.
Getting back to the depth along the defensive line, it came on 11 snaps with only 38. Is that kind of the number you're looking for more along the defensive line and getting those guys and keeping them fresh? And how does that result in a higher level of play across the line?
Did you say Cayman? Is it just Cayman? Yes. Yes, you know, we would love to be able to keep all of our front 4 in that 40 or under range, and that's just a significant difference from last year. And when we really went back and looked at the rep count from the year before, you know, with offenses that score a lot of points like Miami does and guys that are running 70 and 80, I mean, we ran 90 plays the other day. Our offense did, or close to it. But just it's really, really hard to be able to play guys 60 and 70 plays week in and week out, and then at the end of the year still, you know, play at a really high level. And so, you know, that's where we were last year. So, you know, again, there's means to the madness here, right? Like we knew that we need to develop these guys to the point where they can play 2 deep at most areas. But the D-line is where it matters the most because those guys are the ones that take the brunt, you know, of the double teams, and that's the physical point of attack part of the defense where you have to be able to roll those guys. We weren't able to do that as much last year. So that always is the goal, to try to be in that 40 to 45 range if you can with your front 4.
There's a million different stats we can throw up to measure good, bad, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, confidence, I know it's 5 games in. Confidence seems like it's becoming somewhat of a defining trait for your group as an overall defense. It seems like it's just a more confident bunch collectively. Like, how do you measure that? As a guy who knows defenses so intricately, like, how do you measure that your team is playing with confidence? How do you see that?
I think it's by the way they practice. I think it's by the way they prepare. I think it's by the way they understand when you have really intelligent football IQ conversations with everybody and they totally get it. You know, I don't know that you can, you know, just there's one defining element where you can see it, but you kind of feel it. You know what I mean? It's a feel thing. It's kind of like, you know, you can't see the wind, but you can feel it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of the same thing, and they definitely are gaining more confidence. You know, again, with, you know, guys that have this much experience, and now it's year 2 in a defense. I think people sometimes minimize the value of that, right? In what year 2 in anything, offense, defense, but in a system, you know, that does matter. So I think all of that is part of the equation, but I feel like our guys are playing more confident, and they should. And they also do know, and let me add, they 100% know we have to play much better. They know we have to play much better. That there's a lot of things we're doing that's not okay. So when you have a game that looks good on paper, I've always said this, you go into a film session on a Sunday and, it's never as good as you thought it was, and it's usually never as bad as you thought it was. It's usually somewhere in the middle. So we still have a lot of things we got to clean up.
Gene, Tyler Van Dyke's been sacked 3
I'm
times.
sorry, who?
Tyler Van Dyke has
Yes.
been sacked 3 times, I think, so far this season. Is his lack of getting on the ground, is that due to just the fact that they don't run the ball so well and keep that defensive line honest? Is it that quick passing game? How do you counteract that as you prepare for them?
Yeah, I think it's 3 things. Number one, they're running the ball really, really well. That's number one. Number two, the offensive line and their tight ends and their backs are really good in protection. They got some really big athletic bodies up there. 2 transfers came in right now that really bolstered the offensive line. But they're big athletic guys. So they're doing a really, really good job in protection. And then it's always on the quarterback to, to go through his progression, but he's got to get the ball out. And he's really, really done a good job with getting the ball out. So when you can run the ball, when you're gaining confidence every week that you can and will be protected really, really well by your 6 protectors or 7 or 5 or however many are in, and you're very confident on where you're looking to go with the ball, and you got guys that can get open, I think all of that, kind of ties in with being able to get the ball off and not get sacked. So, this game won't necessarily be measured by sacks, right? It's going to be about coverage, and it's going to be about, guys pressuring the quarterback. People don't put a lot of, studying into, the value of letting a quarterback, getting a quarterback in a position where he can't necessarily follow through on a throw. It's not going to go down as a sack in the record book. It's not even going to maybe go down as a pressure in the record book. But when you can get him off rhythm or off a spot, that's the goal. So for him, for a defense to be successful against him, that's what you have to do. You have to move him some, right? You can't just be sitting back there and be able to see and feel everything and throw it on timing and rhythm. And that's for any quarterback. So, but they do a great job of that. But I think it's all of that together.
Is Miami the fastest team to play, or the fastest team you've seen yet?
Up to this point, they're the fastest team we've seen, without question. They're the fastest team we've seen. They've got skill. I mean, their backs are fast. Their wideouts are fast. Their managers and trainers look fast. They're fast. So yes, they got great speed.
I appreciate Jeremy letting me say that.
Thanks, y'all. Y'all have a great day.